call just to make sure, and get it up for you. Is Councillor Whittam returned?
I'm here.
Councillor Hargroves?
Present, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Morris?
Yes, Chair, I'm here.
Very good. Councillor Newlands? Councillor Newlands, are you present? Councillor O'Brien? Are you present?
Yes, Chair.
Very good. Councillor Rose?
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Soames?
Yes, Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Councillor Newlands, have you returned?
Chair.
Oh, Councillor Newlands?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you for that. And if we may return to Councillor Rose, you may now ask your question. Councillor Rose, sorry for the interruption.
That's all right, Chair. Thank you. Can I just turn to the report and the paragraphs on the site allocation in the new Southwark plan? And my question is, we see lots in this report about how the Thomas Street East framework has evolved over time, and how each of the members of that framework group have responded to it, and how the main objective is to be sort of shorter than the Shard and shorter than Capitol House as it steps down throughout St Thomas Street East. But I just wanted to be clear in relation to the site allocation now, the expectations from the site, and if you could just confirm the following for me. As I understand it, this application sits on a site of around 3,000 square metres, 0.3 of a hectare. And the total amount of gross internal area generated by this application, when you add up all the sections in the report listed in paragraph 18, amount to something around 30,466 square metres of gross interior area. So as a broad rule of thumb, notwithstanding the deduction of open space provided, we're looking at a floor area ratio for this application of around about 10, as my basic maths concludes. And that's not taking into account that the rest of the site or adjacent to it was the warehouse application. I just wanted to make sure that my understanding was correct, and that this was a sizable increase on previous earlier iterations of the site allocation for this site, albeit its reference numbers has changed over time. But is that correct, Terence, in relation to how the policy around this site has emerged in recent times? So that's my question on that. And then I have
that's a long question.
Yeah.
Yes, a long question.
Yeah,
so first of all, we'll take the first question, Terence.
So yeah, it is NSP 51. In terms of how the site allocation has developed over time, I'm not aware of that. We would need to ask one of the officers from the planning policy team who work on the new Southwark plan. I do know that in terms of the floor area ratios, it's worth noting that the figures don't in any way provide an indication of either a maximum or minimum amount of development that could or should be achieved on an individual site. It's more of a rough kind of capacity guide. But yeah, in terms of how the site allocation has developed over time, I would need to consult with a member of the policy team who worked on the site allocations in the run up to the new Southwark plan submission.
Okay, thank you for that, Terence.
You had a further question, Councillor Rose?
well, I could go back on that, but I want to ask Michael a design question in relation to the consideration of the design of the main building, the south, sort of the external core to the south, and how it's the relationship between the proposal and the Horseshoe Inn for the first, and the how its replacement for the warehouse on Fenning Street and its impact there. And then secondly, I also want to ask him a question about what was the design process and motivation for the pavilion stroke rotunda at the front.
Terence?
Thank you.
Or Michael.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chair. I can share the screen with the pack if that's okay, okay. And then we can pick up the visuals in that way. And this time, this is the member pack as it's been publicised. So the you can see that the little warehouse, which is in the corner of Fenning Street and Mellier Street. Can you see that? The screen that I'm sharing, page 31 of your member pack.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
the little warehouse is on the corner here. It's 2 stories high, and you can see that the new core is roughly in the same location, but set back from the pavement. If you compare that with the Horseshoe Inn in this screen, this shows the little warehouse as it sort of overlaps the footprint of the Horseshoe Inn in that corner there, and then over here there's less of an overlap. The core steps is in this southeast corner again, but slightly is set back a little bit further than the current warehouse. So the core is roughly in the same location as the warehouse, only set back slightly from the street. And it is designed to sit in that location as a sort of intermediary between the office building, which is to the north, and the residential properties, which are to the south of Mellier Street. And so there's it sort of sits as an intermediary and does not allow sort of overlooking. So that was the principle of the design of the core. The rotunda is in this corner here, and is designed as a sort of it was always designed as a sort of pavilion building, almost a sort of a one-off that is intended to sit in this space. As I said, it's sort of it's intended to hold that corner, and was designed to not so that the square that is in the middle of this location between the rotunda and the main building itself, that the square doesn't sort of bleed out onto the street and at the corner, which is quite a busy traffic corner. Those of you who know that area, is quite a busy trafficked area, trafficked junction at Bermondsey Street, St Thomas Street, Snowsfield. So it's intended to form just a small feature building, a pavilion, sitting on the corner and as a counterpoint to the main building, creating almost enclosing and sort of creating that space together with the vinegar warehouse, which is to the south. That would form the sort of group of 3 buildings that would enclose and hold that space at the center of the site. So those were the sort of principles of the design process, and how it relates to the Horseshoe Inn. As I said, the core is set back further to open up views of the Horseshoe Inn at that sort of southwest corner of the site. Does that answer your question, Councillor Rowe?
Thank you. It's very helpful. In the sense of, but how much taller is the core building than the current Fenning Street warehouse?
Well, the core serves the whole building, so it would be 20 stories high. It's shown on the elevations. You can see it here. So it's this. It's on this elevation. It's this white coloured bit on the corner there, and it goes the full height of the building, so to the full 20 stories.
Can I ask you? Sorry, Catherine, I did before you move off the screen. Michael, can you just confirm at which point does the building intersect with the conservation area? Is that visible here?
Yes, we can. I can show you that, Chair. I'll have to refer to the previous presentation, which is right up at the top. So there we have the Vinegar Yard proposal, which just shows that the conservation area is shown in pink, and the corner that we're talking about, where the warehouse is the corner, is inside the conservation area.
And how tall is that? How tall is it?
That is proposed to be 20 stories high. So that corner is inside the conservation area. That little warehouse and the horseshoe inn are in the conservation area, and the area that is on the in the corner of the within the conservation area is proposed to be 20 stories high.
And did you say in your presentation there was no harm being caused to the conservation area?
Well, we are satisfied that that any harm caused is more than justified by the benefits that outweigh the benefits of development and the public benefits arising from the development. Chair.
Okay, I may have to return to that later on. Catherine, do you have further questions?
The pavilion also serves as an entrance and exit to an underground music and leisure facility, doesn't it? And
yes.
I understand the orientation of the entrance in and out of it. I've got some issues around it serving that purpose, and also from a conservation and design point of view. Whilst I appreciate the point around it being the marker to contain the sense of a public square, and it may well serve also to sort of soften the acoustics of traffic and wind and the climate, whatever. But I also think that its position and its design could also be said to actually jar with the warehouse building itself that it will face, in the sense that it's trying to echo it, and there's a combination of a warehouse sort of pitched articulated roof structure there, and also echoes of mock Tudor when in some of the representations and CGI that I've seen, and whether or not the entrance and exit bit it's shown completely open there, and presumably there'll be escalators down into the venue. I just would like to reconcile a little bit more what you know and understand to be entrance and exits, and how it would function, and how this modern pavilion actually sits, and whether it enhances or detracts from the warehouse itself.
Thank you, Chair. I think what I have on the screen is an image of just the pavilion, and you can see that it's intended to be openable on the ground floor and allow access to, but obviously close if necessary, as necessary. And as I'm sure, well, the intention is that any people accessing or leaving the venue would be first within that sort of ground floor enclosure before they progress down into the venue or back up and leave. On the upper floors, it has a restaurant facility, which also contributes to the activity on within the square, it was not intended to jar or challenge the warehouse. It's intended to sit in that location as as almost like a counterpoint, as I said. Obviously, the main building is a large building that steps back and away from the public space, and these two buildings, quite small, the warehouse itself, the historic the warehouse and the pavilion, are intended to be two buildings that just sit within within that sort of space and just give it a sense of enclosure. It's not intended to jar, but to complement the conservation area, and it uses traditional materials and traditional features like the pitched roofs and so on to do that, but not to mimic or create a sort of copy of the warehouse. It's intended to be, as I said, very clearly as a pavilion within that space, within that public space.
Yes, as I said, I think we might have returned to the question of the conservation area and its priorities. I'm conscious, colleagues, of time, and I'm also conscious there are at least two colleagues who wishes to ask a question. I'm keen to hear from the objectors. I'm very keen to hear from the applicant agents. And if, as a result of hearing evidence from both objectors and applicant agents, there are subsequent questions and clarifications on the report and substance of the report, and of course we could always return to it as part of our final debate. But if I may, I'll move on now. If I may, Councillor Rose, I'll move on to Councillor O'Brien if he does have a question at this time. Is there a question?
Yes, I
Fair
do.
enough.
Thank you.
Yeah. And is this a question, forgive me, Councillor O'Brien, and I should have asked it of earlier colleagues, of course, is this a question that reasonably the applicant could respond to, as they are the applicant and they are sitting here waiting for your questions?
I did think of that. I think I'd like to put it to Alex because it's to do with the, Alex, if you're there, mate. How far along are you with the construction management plan across the 4 sites? And can you give us an indication of how building products will be delivered to the 4 sites? And then the second part of the question, which may go better to the applicant, is I know as a ward councillor in the area, we've had problems with building strikes of delivery vehicles hitting buildings trying to turn into Mellier Street. So I was just wondering if you'd thought of that and how the delivery bay in Fenning Street will be accessed by delivery vehicles, please. And I think you're muted, Alex.
You are muted, Alex.
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah. In terms of the construction management, what we intend, we expect the developers to do is to use off-site consolidation centers for delivery, say for including materials, so that whatever they bring into this site will be just in time, on demand, before they can deliver to this site. So there'll be everything that relates to delivery of materials will be delivered to off-site consolidation center. So as they need the material, then they will call upon the material from that side, rather than everyone just bringing stuff at the same time. So it will be based on just in time as well. So it'll be time delivery. There'll be a control on that to say that if any supplier, transport operator should abuse that, there'll be penalties as well. So an appointment, just in time you deliver, and then off you go through the consolidation center. So they use a similar system like the Guy's Hospital, St. Thomas's Hospital, because they use that off-site consolidation center as well.
Very good. Okay. Forgive me, Councillor O'Brien, because clearly these are questions we could have dealt with prior to the meeting. These are not technical questions on the report proper. These are clarifying how the final construction management plan will be formed. And whilst I can see the benefit of asking the question at the meeting, they could very easily have been dealt with prior. I'm noting that we want to make sure we've had a briefing, we've had site visits, and we've had numerous opportunities to clarify that particular question. But I'm particularly interested in, are there technical matters to do with the reports that colleagues have queries which have not been resolved following the numerous contacts we've had with officers prior to this meeting? So if there are not questions which are technical questions on the report proper, then I would want to move on quickly, if I may. So if I may, Councillor Bryan, I won't take that question further or on transport unless there's a technical matter that's not dealt with satisfactorily within the report. If not, I can move on, if I may. Councillor Whittam. You have a technical question on the report.
I just wanted to ask Michael about page 35 in the members pack, which is the south elevation of the main building. Should the Horseshoe Pub appear on that, and if so, how far up the building would it come? So how much is the main building dwarfing the Horseshoe Pub?
This is the screen that I'm sharing at the moment, which is the page you're referring
35.
to. Yes.
So shouldn't the Horseshoe Pub be in front of the main building, this elevation?
Well, technically, this elevation is just showing the main the building. I suppose technically it would be the Horseshoe Pub is just 2 stories high, so it would be roughly the 2 stories that you see glazed at the bottom of the building, and just to the right of this white the white stair tower on the left hand side of the picture that you see now. So,
so it would
roughly
be absolutely dwarfed. And would that be right next? How much separation would there be between the pub and the?
Well, the plan shows the
how
pub.
How many meters is that? Yeah.
And that I would say is around 10 meters.
From the back.
From the flank of the pub to the
stairwell.
To the southern flank of the building, but that's
okay. So we established the dimensions. Are there further questions, Councillor Whittam?
No, thank you.
Very good. If I may, then thank you, Michael, for that response. And your response is duly noted. I'd like to move forward, if I may, and just keep to time. First of all, does anyone present wishes to speak in objection to the application? Now, this is a note for the objectors. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Council's YouTube channel. You may choose to switch off your camera and address the meeting with audio only. When introducing yourself, please only give your first name, the block or street you live, not the exact address. I believe we may have 2 speakers. Am I right, Gerald, Jessica, Beattie, Jessica and Toby?
That's correct, Chair.
Are they present?
I'm here.
Yes.
You're both present, right here then. Excellent. And I may first of all say to you, welcome. And it's a pleasure that we meet under these conditions finally. And now you may be aware of how we would proceed with this. I will ask you again just to introduce yourself, and we don't want your exact address, but it indicate roughly where you live. I will then indicate that you may start your presentation. You have 3 minutes to make your presentation, and that's 3 minutes which include both presentations, both yourself, Jessica and Toby. So can I just ask you again just to introduce yourself and just confirm roughly where you live?
Can I introduce us both? Is that okay?
You can if you wish, if that's okay with Jessica, of course.
Yeah. And may I just make a point of clarity that we'd like to be able to refer to a set of 5 slides during this 3-minute introduction.
Can I suggest, you can, but I might suggest that you might give us your presentation and then invite a member to ask what specific slide you wish to show us so we can see those slides without the threshold of 3 minutes. I might suggest that to you. But
okay, I have collated the 5 slides specifically for the introduction.
And I will, specifically for the introduction. I'm not sure if our IT is set up that way. I wonder if Gerald has got that information, and can we put on the screen? How are we doing this?
I can introduce in the meantime, should I?
Before you do that, I just want to check with Gerald. How would we do this?
I understand that it is Terence and Michael who have those slides to show.
Terence and Michael. Right, okay. Terence and Michael, do you have the slides? Yes.
Sorry, no, we don't have these slides. We have a set of slides about the previous item from this objector. We don't have any slides about this pertaining to this particular case.
This was emailed to you very clearly 2 hours ago.
2 hours ago, that's rather short notice.
No, I mean...
hold on a second, please.
It's been emailed about 4 times today.
4 times. That's unfortunate.
I can screen share, but I'm not allowed.
Right. If you could you just both of you just put your mic and mic on silent for a moment. If I can just have a quick check with the clerk, just advise how to proceed with this. Is Gerald handy?
Yes, Chair. It's if you would like for these slides to be shown, I would advise for them to be emailed again, and maybe to have a quick break so that that Michael and Terence can have a look at them and then show them at the appropriate time.
Right here. I'm minded to do that if you have said this on 4 occasions, Toby. I would agree that it should be reasonable that we should have it handy. I'm minded to take a 5-minute intermission, and the time is now 8 o'clock. We will reconvene at 8:05. Hopefully that's sufficient time. If you could send the information over to Gerald, Toby, please. Very good. 5 minutes. Intermission. And if Gerald, if you could confirm when you are ready.